Well, I made a strategical mistake. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but yeah, the gap is about this big. I've just removed the exhaust system, and you can see one of the reasons why turbocharging IS200s is popular. Because once you remove the exhaust system, you've got so much space. So a proper manifold in the turbo downpipe fits perfectly in here. And I really hope that these turbos will also fit there. So let me try to set up something and see what is in the way of the turbochargers. I think I got the turbo in the somewhat final position. I've had to remove some of the things, for example the power steering low pressure line, as well as the wiring has been moved, but now the turbo hangs. I think it is pretty parallel to the engine, so the gap is big enough, I think, for a collector to be made there. The only problem I see is that some of the wiring and the ABS lines will be quite close to the turbos, as well as here it's even worse, but maybe I can move them a bit, also add some insulation, and probably they will be alright. Maybe a turbo blanket, I don't know yet. That's a problem for future me. In the back there's also not that much space, but I think it doesn't foul on anything immediately. The coolant lines might be another problem, but there is some space, so I think I'll manage something. So overall I think it will work. Even I was looking if the hood clearance will be good, and I think it's fine. It should close once finished. Because when I made the flange, I made the exhaust hole diameter exactly the same that is on the head, 30.5 millimeters in diameter, and the pipe that I got, it's schedule 10, I think. I'll put it on the screen because I don't remember exactly, but the inner diameter is like 36 point something millimeters, and you can see the size difference. Even though the gas is flowing to this side, and the step should not be a big problem. It would be much worse if the gases would be traveling this way and would collide with this flat surface. I've tried to add a chamfer before, but I didn't use the correct tools. The little Dremel with the sandpaper attachments, well, it's not meant for stainless steel. So I bought a carbide burr, or rasp, I don't know how to call it. So this thing should go through steel much faster, and hopefully I'll add additional 3 millimeters. I don't know if you can see, I've marked here with a caliper how far I need to go to reach approximate inner diameter of the pipe, so the transition would be nicer. After that I'll need to bolt this down to the head and start fabricating the exhaust manifold. I don't know if it finished recording the last part because the battery went dead, but previously I went through with the carbide tip and made these holes beveled. As you can see, the transition is smoother compared to the stock one. I don't think the exhaust manifold would benefit much more from like making these holes a lot bigger, so I'll just leave it at that. Time to fabricate the exhaust manifold. Because working on the car is very difficult, especially since this first step does not require me to position the turbos, the manifold will be the same. It doesn't matter where I will position the turbos in a final location. So what I did is I've used the old head from the engine that blew up like at the end of the first part. I've just bolted down the flange and started to measure things and see how to make the beginning of the manifold. I made several cuts of these at different lengths to try to find out what exactly is needed for the ideal fitment for the holes. And this one is, I think, very close, but it might be slightly too short, but at least I got a reference, and I can cut two pieces that are slightly longer than this one, and I think this will be very good fitment. Just tack welded these three pieces, so now they connect the holes. I'll tack weld another one of these for the other side, and then try to cut a pipe for the central piece, which needs to have a cutout to get around this pipe. Just finished cutting this middle part. It took a couple of tries, but now it fits pretty much perfectly. And how I did that was I cut a piece of the pipe and put the previously printed part on it and just scribed along this line with a screwdriver to mark it, and then just cut along the line. And I also had to slightly remove some of the material on the inside so it would fit better. And now I will need to position and tack weld this middle part. And for the inside, I think what I'm going to do is buy a crown drill bit. I don't know if it's called that in English, and just drill a hole. I'll buy like a 35mm crown because the inside diameter of the pipe is 36mm, I think, so it should get me pretty much there, and just finish the hole with a carbide bit. Just used this crown and got a hole drilled. Now it's actually connected, all of the pipes. So there is a small lip because I've used a 35mm diameter crown, and the inner diameter of the pipe is like 36 and like a mil or two, I think. So I will need to clean up the edges with a carbide bit, but that's very easy to do. And after that I can start welding it to the flange, after of course I make the other one. I'll need to put a hole somewhere here depending on how I decide to fit the turbos. So got the hole cleaned up. This one side came out really nice. The other side, I don't know if you'll be able to see on camera, but there is a small hole, but I cannot take any more material off because I'll just make a hole in here. But I think once I weld this up, I think I should get enough penetration to melt this together also on the inside, and I don't think that will be a problem, but at least I hope so. Just tack welded these manifolds. I've only tacked them in two places, just to position them to go see how they look in the engine bay, and also to confirm that these bolts can be taken out. I mean, I've tried it while it was just held on by zip ties, but it's good to verify before I weld anything permanently. And I've also decided that because there are some places, for example here or maybe here, that will be difficult to weld with the manifolds on the flange, I'll weld these difficult to reach places of the flanges, only those. Then I think I will weld wherever I can on the flange and all of these parts with the flange bolted to the spare head, and then like these maybe small places that will be difficult or impossible to reach, I will do with the manifold taken off. At least that's the plan. We will see how I end up doing things. Now I'll put this on the car and see how it looks. I've put the manifolds on, and yeah, so there is just enough space for them. So after I gave it a little bit twist, so the top closer to the head, the turbos actually fit because there is a small space at the back of the firewall, which actually allows the turbos to sit further back and closer to the head, which is nice because that leaves some more space between the turbos and the ABS lines. Even the distance now is quite large. That means that I don't think I'll need to heat proof them because the air gap is plenty, I think. And looking at how the turbos sit, I think what I'll need to do is cut like 2 of these, maybe slightly longer, and just wedge them between the flange on the turbo and the manifold. I rarely weld stainless, so this is my first time trying to do a back purge. I'll report how it goes. Well, I made a strategical mistake. I kind of forgot that welds, especially stainless steel welds, have a really strong pull. So now both of these elbows, this one and this one, are pulled, of course, to the inside. And if I put it on a flange, the middle piece is now shorter, which poses a problem because the gap is quite big. And I don't know what should I do. I guess I could try to weld the backside and hope that the opposing welds will pull it back somewhat. I don't know, I'll have to think. Maybe it's easier just to do a new one, or maybe slightly trim these parts to make this part sit flush once again. I mean, it's not by a huge amount, like a millimeter, maybe 1.5 millimeters, but still the fit is not good. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but yeah, the gap is about this big. So I think I got away with it. The gap is slightly bigger than it was before, but it's not catastrophical as it was previously. Finally, I think got the final position of the turbos and got these 2 pipes that connect the manifold with the turbo flange. They got tacked up, and now I need to drill the holes. After I drill the holes, I think it will be time to tack up the flanges, and then it will mean that all of the parts of the turbo manifold are at least stacked, and then I will need to purge the insides of these manifolds and fully weld them up. So when I started this job, I thought, yeah, I will need a crown, maybe 2, let's grab 2, but I'm 4 crowns in, and actually 2 were pretty much ruined on this one. I don't know what's in particular about this hole, but it just destroys the crowns. I add a new crown, I start to drill, and yeah, I see chips and everything, all is going good. And then the chips stop, the bit just gets hotter and nothing happens. And I'm so close on both of them. Like, this has penetrated in the 2 parts, so it's so close. But, and I mean, that cost me like 36 euros or 40 euros or something like that, which is just stupid. I don't know, I really hope that tomorrow I'll get the better crowns. At least I hope they are better. They are from a actually dedicated tool shop, not just a hardware store, so hopefully they will be better. So finally got a new crowns from a different store, different brand. I mean, immediately it is much heavier, but I think that is because of the base that is thicker than this one, and I really hope that these will last at least a bit longer than the other. Even with the new crown, it was quite difficult, but I got the hole. And the other side is very difficult, I don't know why. It keeps jamming and I don't see much of material being taken off. Primarily it just generates heat. Because my crown bit would get stuck constantly, and I think it was because of the depth difference. What I did is I actually bent the almost cut piece because there is very little metal left, and now I have better access to the still unmachined pipe. Finally got the final piece drilled out. It was very difficult. I guess it's because of how the pipe is. The metal here is quite thick. Also there was some welds on some position, but it's finally out. I need to clean this up and put the manifold back on the engine in the car, because I need to finalize the turbo positions and tack weld the flanges on these pipes. The hood is down because of a very important moment. If I open up it, we'll find that the turbos actually fit. I've had to remove the sound deadening of the hood, but it does not interfere. It comes really close, like I could probably put the finger between, maybe. So that's like a half centimeter, maybe 5 mil, but maybe that's enough. I think I can clearance the hood a bit at that particular spot, maybe cut out a small piece just to have some safety, because well, it's on the stock engine mount, so the engine will move. But yeah, this is the final position of the turbos, I think. Just barely managed to take these out by myself. These are quite heavy, and there was not a lot of space for them, but they are out. And now I will need to finally fully weld up these manifolds. I'll take them off and bolt it to the spare head that I have. And I'm also thinking of also bolting these, because I'm afraid that something will shift and the holes on the turbochargers will not line up with the holes on the manifold. And to prevent that, and I'm thinking of bolting everything together and then welding it. I've got the back pudge set up also. The downpipe is closed using this bit of weld between two sides of using this dump flange that is bolted. I've used the old, I think it is an EGR port to add the gas hose. And yeah, everything is prepared. I will do the top part, I guess, and then move to the back side, and hopefully I'll be able to access everything, especially since I can flip the head around and get to the bottom side. So I ran out of two things. First of all, I ran out of time, it's getting too late. And the second thing is I ran out of filler wire. This is all I've got left. I had I visited a welding shop today, but I completely forgot that I needed more stainless steel filler rod. Oh well, anyways, I wouldn't be able to finish this today just because it's like after 8 o'clock at the evening and I need to start heading back. It's the first time I've seen it frosted, but I guess, you know, setting it for like 2 hours and constantly and gets you there. I bought some new filler wire and finished up the welds that I can do from this side and with everything bolted up. And yeah, so only a few small spots left. The welds are not the prettiest, and I think one of the things I've saw is that I need to increase my post flow, because in some regions the weld is kind of gray in this spot, for example, because I've forgotten some instances to keep the gas flow with, you know, pumping the pedal. I'm really interested to see how the inside looks. Hopefully it got protected by the back purge. Now I'm going to wait for it to cool down a bit, and after it cools down I think I'll remove the turbos, the manifolds from the head, and finish the several spots that I could not reach, pretty much the areas near the bolt holes. I declared the end of fabrication of the twin turbo manifold. The welds are not great, well, at least not pretty. They should be strong enough. Well, and if not, I'll just try to weld them back, I guess, or make a new one later down the line. But for now, it's finished. I'll have to put it on the car to make sure that nothing shifted too much and everything bolts back onto the engine and the turbos. So this is what I'm dealing right now. So the flange is warped and the middle is much higher than the ends. Yeah, that's like, if I had to guess, like maybe 4 mil, which is too much to be machined. So what I'm thinking now is actually I'll need to cut it here, because if I put the ruler on balanced on the middle, you can see that the gap now is only like a millimeter maybe. It's a design flaw. I don't know, we kind of made it a one piece, and now I'm really thinking that it should have been a two-piece design. Oh well, you live and you learn. After I cut the manifold into two pieces, I bolted everything back up. Seems everything is fine. It didn't move too much in any direction. And when I started, I thought that the water hose will be interfering, the wiring will be interfering, the power steering lines will be interfering. But now, as it sits, almost everything is clearing. The only modification I'll need to think about is the heater hoses, which come out straight into the intake pipe, and I'll have to think how to route the heater hoses. And now I have to start plumbing the turbos to make the oil feed lines, to make the oil return lines and everything else, then make the exhaust, add an intercooler here, and just many more things to come. But yeah, I'm really glad that this part is finished.